Hi, hello again. So it has been quite a while since I uploaded a video on this channel. So that was happening due to things that changed in my life a little bit drastically. So for those of you who have watched my early channel videos, then, well, this is a reboot. I'm just starting over, mainly because AutoHotkey has changed so much during the past 10, 15 years that I think it is warranted that we start fresh, but actually with the latest release, which is AutoHotkey V2. So what this video is going to be all about is just a very simple introduction on what AutoHotkey is, how you can install it, and a little bit of a demonstration. That's for people who have never heard about AutoHotkey. If you go to AutoHotkey.com, is a language, it's a programming language that derived from AutoIt, is a different earlier language. Now, what AutoHotkey did is that they specialized specifically on bindings, creating triggers and hotkeys, and something else called HotStrings that I'm going to display or showcase in a bit. They got specialized on that, and they got really good at it. And from there, it has grown into a little bit of a bigger language. It's a niche language, but it's really good for what it does. It focuses on automation, and it allows you to create hotkeys and hot strings very easily. If you go ahead and look at the syntax, if you go on the website and look at the syntax, it's really straightforward. It's very easy to learn the basics of it, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to start with it, because even though they're saying pick up the syntax, if you have never done anything related to programming, you might not even know what this means or where to put this in, right? So, and also the second example is already too complex for many people, but I will show you it's not that hard, at least for starting out. AutoHotkey is great for just starting out. As you notice, like the features, they start off with creating hot strings and hotkeys. That's basically the main part of AutoHotkey. Graphical user interface is on third spot here, and but I would say those are the two things that are the main uses of AutoHotkey at the moment: creating simple graphical user interfaces and building hotkeys and hot strings is the most that I use it for. You would be surprised which big companies uses them. Like in here, even though you have a few kind of like brands showing up and so whatever, I have worked with some companies and I have worked with some entities, big entities, that use AutoHotkey on the background. So even though AutoHotkey is not like a language that is extremely popular out there, there's a lot of big companies that use it. So let's go ahead and download it. Let's go ahead and create a Hello World example. If you have never programmed in your life, this is going to make a little bit more sense. If you have done this already, I guess there's nothing else I can teach you here, except for a few things about the installer that you probably might not know. So let's go with that. You have these two versions. The version 1 is deprecated, officially deprecated. So if you have any V1 scripts, just know that it is no longer supported. They will still run on your computer. You can still use it. You can still code in that language. But if there's a bug in the language, it will not get fixed. So for that reason, as time goes by, this is going to get worse and worse. So I would definitely recommend jumping to V2. You don't have to convert your scripts. There's a lot of nuance to that. So, but I would say new scripts that you develop, probably V2 is great to start. The problem will be that once you get used to V2, and you will get used to it, and you will like it, you will not like V1. It will be very difficult to go backward. When I made the jump, like in less than a month, I was like, I don't want to see V1 code ever again. Like I didn't want to see it anymore. So the transition is a little bit painful at the beginning. If you don't know a little bit about those things, I'm going to make a video on that, how to transition. For now, let me just go ahead and run the installer here. And basically the installer is a very simple one-step setup process. And here's the thing. Here's the problem, or not the problem, like the thing that not many people kind of like realize. You have an option here of installing for all users or install as a current user. And you will notice that there's a little bit of a difference between the two, but it might not be obvious. One of them is the location where it gets installed is different. And basically, yes, that's great, because if you are in a computer in which you do not have administrator rights, you cannot install AutoHotkey in this folder. It will ask you for admin permissions. But you can install it for the current user, and it will run just fine. So you can, if you're in a place that have some restrictions and they haven't outright banned external tools, which in that case don't do this, but if it is just like, oh, you don't have admin rights, just install for the current user, everything is gonna run just fine. There is only one difference. When you do this with installing with admin rights, a secondary installer, a secondary AutoHotkey file gets installed for 32-bit and 64-bit, which is a UIA signed executable. That is a little bit advanced. I will probably make videos on that later, but the point is, if you need to connect to certain applications who are elevated, that means that they need admin rights, but you don't want to use admin rights, you can use UIA to connect in that manner, like without, you elevate your script a little bit without being admin, which is more secure. So it is a security feature that you lose when you install as a current user, because it is not signed. That's all there is to it. But it is a very big, important distinction that you might find important. Some people do not know that they just can choose, but they also don't know what they're missing if they choose. So here, let's go ahead and do this. Let's say yes to that. This is the admin rights permission thing that is going to ask you about. And in here, we get kind of like a dash window, right? This is the one that tells you, hey, everything was installed. You have never programmed in your life. Now you think like, what is going on? What else can I do? Well, the main idea is that you will create your own scripts, and those are basically just your own instructions for the computer. And they are just plain text, which means that you can open them with any editor, like Notepad, for example. So you write the instructions, and AutoHotkey is going to read those instructions and execute them for you. That's all there is to it. It's very similar to Python. You just have a text file, you write some Python code in it, and you let Python decipher what to do, and it will do it. That's basically it. Now, let's go ahead and create a new script. Let's write it on the desktop. Let's say hello world. Say it's customary. I'm going to create an empty file at the moment. We will discuss other things later. But you will see nothing happened. And you'll be like, what is going on? Well, nothing happened because you haven't said that something should happen. And that's your job now. AutoHotkey just is installed in the computer, and it will just do its job when you instruct the computer what to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. How do you do that? Okay, so we're going to go to the desktop, and that's where the file got created. And if I right click on it and open with Notepad, you will see that it's completely empty. There's nothing in it. So that's it. That's your job. You have to put stuff in it. This is where you would follow the the examples here. Now let me show you what brought me to AutoHotkey. So the first thing was that I wanted to launch a program by using a hotkey. And that you can do it with certain other tools and so on. But then I realized, hey, I want to launch 3 things with the same hotkey. So when I press it, I want to do 3 actions. That then became a little bit trickier in other tools and with other options that I had. And that's how I landed with AutoHotkey. In AutoHotkey, I saw the example, the same example you saw. Okay, so you can just run something. Oh, cool, that's great. And then I realized, but how do you run multiple ones? The example doesn't say anything about that. Yeah, once I learned, I realized how easy it was. And that's what I'm going to demonstrate. So let's say that you have a hotkey that you want to launch a website with. Okay, so let's say Control F1. In AutoHotkey, you can just use the text F1 and 2 colons to say F1 is now a hotkey, and now I'm going to define an action that should happen whenever I press F1. But I said Control F1. So how do you define that? Well, you would have some special characters. So in AutoHotkey, there are certain rules that you will follow. And in this case, if I want Control F1, I have to define it with the caret symbol, like that. So on the left side, I will have the hotkey. On the right side, I would have the action. And as per the example, you can say run. That is one of the built-in functions that AutoHotkey has, in which you just tell it certain parameters that are valid for it. When you give those valid parameters, it will just open or launch whatever it is that you told it to open. In this case, if you give it a website, it will just look at your default browser and just open the website on that browser. So if I say AutoHotkey.com here, then what it would do is just whenever I press F1, Control F1, it would open AutoHotkey.com. Yeah, you saw that on the website. How do I open 3 things? That's what I said. Okay, so that's where we start learning that now if you want certain actions, you need to use brackets like this, in which you will say, hey, this is where my actions are going to start. I'm going to do a few actions, and then these are where my actions are going to end. And just because you start and end with those, everything in between gets run whenever you press the Control F1. And that's it. Now you can just copy paste this line and have different websites. Google here, LinkedIn there, and so on and so forth. And for readability, I will just do something called indenting. I'm just going to press tab here. And that will allow me to know that, okay, these 3 actions are inside some sort of block. So let's look at the block, and these are the 3 actions that happen there. And as you can see, that's it. It's just that simple. Let's test it. So I'm going to save the file. And now that you saved it, you have your instructions. When I press this button, or this combination of buttons, I want to perform this combination of action. So let's go ahead and see them in action. When I double click my script, it will not do anything right away because I told it, just wait for me to press something. So when I double click, you will notice that a little bit of an icon just showed up in here, and then when I hover over it, it has the name of my script in it. So I know that my script is running at the moment, and because of that, I can now fairly confidently say Control F1, and now 3 pages or 3 websites just open up. LinkedIn, Google, and AutoHotkey. Why did I want to do that? Just imagine yourself at the beginning of your shift at work, and of course you have to launch like 5 different tools and 2, 3, 4 websites. How about if I press 1 button? I get all of those opened up for me. Yeah, that's what I was looking at that time. That's what this solved for me. It is a little bit different than V1, and I will never from now on show V1 syntax as to not to confuse you guys. But that's what's up. The second part that I said, which was HotStrings, is something fairly similar. It's just imagine a trigger that instead of being a hotkey or a combination of keys, imagine that it was a piece of text, a short piece of text that in the end expanded to something longer. So let's say that I want to have a hot string like email. And whenever I type email, and actually I'm going to make it shorter, it's period EML. Whenever I type that, what I want to do is my email at mycompany.com, say for example. So now I want to type 4 letters which will expand to this text. It's a very similar syntax to hotkeys with the colons in there, but you will have to start those with 2 colons at the beginning as well. That's what they are. I can have spaces in between, it doesn't really matter. But basically now, whenever I type these 4 letters and hit space or enter or tab or some delimiters that there are, these texts will be inserted for me very quickly. So let's go ahead and test it out. Let's reload our script. I just right-clicked on my script and look for the reload button here. And we'll get that will get a new instance of it. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't save the thing. Let me go ahead and save it first. Let's reload now that I saved it. Now, wherever I am, it doesn't matter where I am. It could be in a browser or a text editor. If I type .eml and hit space, it gets replaced by the text on the right side. Simple as that. And again, guys, it's the same as usual. So if you have Control F1 is one action, right? Control F2 is a group of actions, right? The same happens with HotStrings. You can say, this one just gives me this line, but how about emails? It can give me a group of emails. Well, instead of brackets like this, the curly braces, I would use parentheses in HotStrings to do sort of the same, meaning that now I can have multiple lines of code, right? Or multiple lines of emails, right? I don't know. The point is, this one is plural now. So I will save this up, reload, and this time, if I do EMLS and hit enter, now I will get a few emails instead of just one. So you see, just by these two things, just the combination of hotkeys and HotStrings will allow you to automate a lot of things about your day-to-day. If you send a lot of emails to different people and you have repetitive text, yeah, HotStrings are going to be for you. If you want to launch or perform a bunch of actions, hotkeys are going to be for you. But that's not where it stops, and that's what this channel is all about. I'm going to be showing you what things can you do without a hotkey, and you would be surprised. There are so many things that you can do. So hope to see you there. Thank you very much for sticking to the end of this video, and see you on the next one.